All right, it's 6 o'clock. I'll meeting to order. All right, so for roll call. Let's see if Rick's not online, right? He's not here. Hey, Josh is online. Okay, so we have two members, or sorry, one member online, one member not here. Right. Next order of business is approval of the agenda, additions and deletions. We have one deletion per se that needs to be done under executive session. The language needs to be changed where it's Title I VSA 313A1. That there's two there that needs to be changed to. Any other additions or deletions? Motion to adopt the agenda as it stands. Second. All in favor? Aye. Agenda passes. Next motion, next order of business is approval of minutes from the December 21, 2023 meeting.
Seconded.
That was Katie. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Order of business is student reports.
So first, I just want to talk about the new semester. We just started this week, and we noticed that with the new 6-period day schedule, many students noticed that their classes have like stayed the same. And usually, like last year, we had an 8-period schedule, so most like science and art classes were double block or half year long. We noticed that this year, only like gym and some art classes are semester long, but they're not double block. So some students like that, some students don't. I personally think it's okay. And then also we just started battle physics. So the physics class at Green Mountain just started battle physics, in which students group together with middle school math and high school algebra students. And our goal is to build a launcher that can launch an object and hit different targets from like different distances away. And so we just went to Home Depot to get supplies to build our launchers, and we just started the building process. And it's very fun. There's like different types of launchers that we can build, like some slingshots. My group is doing air pressure, which is and then some groups are doing catapults as well. We just started the winter sports program, and this is so every Tuesday we have a half day. And I know a lot of students are very excited, and it gives us an opportunity to enjoy the mountain in winter, which I know a lot of my friends at least are excited about. And also, we're still planning winter carnival for the half day before February and April break, but student gov is still working on
A skier or a snow?
snowboarding.
Next order of business is the superintendent's report.
All right, pretty brief for you this month. Our professional development day, the most recent one was this Monday. Learning strands in the morning, and we did self-directed work in the afternoon in light of the weather. And also want people to know that we had time for non-colleague to provide support to their staff who lost teacher just before last weekend, who had passed away after she'd been with the district for a little over 10 years. It's quite a loss. Our crisis team was available for staff during that day and for staff and students on Wednesday when we were coming back. We just to remind everybody, we have a team of our counselors and our clinicians. When there is a loss that touches the community, they go to the schools and provide support. And that involves counselors from some schools will go to a school so that the counselor at that school may also be affected by the loss. Is not the one who has to practice. Our crisis team does a wonderful job. I appreciate this. Our next professional development day will be on March 22nd, and I know you have information and some written reports from our curriculum directors about what's happening with those. Our principals all have their reports about what's happening directly in the schools. The central office activity for the last month continues to be primarily around the budget. And Cheryl and I will talk more about that in a few minutes. I mentioned last time the legislative session began on January 3rd. There's continuing discussion about facility upgrades from the school construction aid task force. As I said last month, I was part of a panel that spoke with them in November. There also is discussion around Act 127, which is the act that created our new weighting formula and the degree of interesting discussions around how school budgets work, and the legislators continue to review that and look at property tax burden and education spending. Let's see. I received the demographic projections from NESDEC. There's nothing particularly surprising. They predict that numbers will continue to decrease slowly. Those are being put up on the TRSU website so that people can see them. I will, once that happens, Kelly was going to do that today. They may be up by now, and I'll make sure that everybody else sees them as well. The numbers may not look, when principals see them as well, they will not match exactly the numbers that we currently have in our schools, because the NESDEC process is to look at the people who live in the town, and the students who attend our schools also include people who don't live in the town, so that we have people who are, we have families that are homeless that attend their schools, even if they don't live within our particular towns. We have some students who live in Ludlow, who through our limited school choice attend schools in either Chester or in Cavendish, and those students don't show up in these numbers. They're pretty close. But if you're looking at it and saying, wait a minute, it says there are 69 students in that school, and I know there are 75. That's the reason for those differences. They are fairly accurate in terms of predictions for the next 5 years for our elementary schools, because we know how many students currently live in town. Now that can change when people move in and out. Their projections for the 5 years after that are based on birth rates, because they involve students who haven't been born yet. So they are projecting how they, based on the last 5 years' birth rates, what they think the next 5 years will be. So those will be available for us to look at, for us to consider. There is the TRSU level one that will be available is the one that also has the high school connected in it. There isn't a separate one for the high school, because the high school takes people from so many different towns that trying to do that projection looks a little bit different. So you see that within one labeled TRSU. And then we'll talk about that. We'll put that on the agenda tab and more in-depth conversations about that at our February meeting. The VSBA had a webinar today. I don't know whether anybody attended it at noon. Let's pass a budget. And the upcoming ones, there's one on February 12th about legislative advocacy at lunchtime. At noon, they will give an update on the first 6 weeks of the 2024 legislative session. Plans for the remainder will also be provided, and suggestions for board members about how to engage with the legislative process and talk to your various representatives. And then on March 6th, which is the day after voting happens, is they will be offering again a 3-hour-long seminar on building the board team, at a point at which people will begin to have those reorganization meetings. So they do a pretty good job of going through ideas about how to onboard new board members. And while that is something that we've had our own little process with, I would encourage people to go and attend those, because every time a new person joins the board, you have a new board. And that's what I have for you. Yes.
I read an article about the PCB testing and some sort of recommendation coming out of the governor's office about slowing down testing so that there would be enough money to pay for the schools that have already, I guess, deposited. Do you know anything about that?
I do. Well, unfortunately for us, we're that bell has been rung. So when I spoke in front of the House Education Committee about PCBs along with several other superintendents, they asked us because they had tried to pause it earlier. The House had tried to pause it, and the Senate said, "Nope, we're not doing that. We're going ahead with it." Even though we don't know where the money's going. So when they've now heard from those of us who are affected by this, about our concerns about being told that the state will reimburse us for our costs, while also being told that the state has insufficient funds to be able to reimburse us for those costs. They have $13 million and there are $29 million still available, according to some people. And according to other people, it's already been spent. So it depends on who you talk to. In any event, the House heard this testimony and asked those of us who were present how we would feel about pausing things. And then a survey was sent out to all of Vermont superintendents about the reaction if it were paused. Most of us would say that it is a good idea not to move forwards with a program that is not clearly ready to be implemented, that has not been carefully thought out. For us, we're already moving. So slowing down testing for future schools doesn't affect our process.
Thank you. And thank you for testing.
Yes.
That report that NASDAQ sends out, can we see other schools or just?
You can see other schools if they've made them public, and some schools do. But NASDAQ would not, as far as I know, they would not share with us the material that they prepared for another school. And some schools that have that done, put it up on their website, which we're going to do because as soon as it's been shared with the board, it becomes a public document. And there's nothing that needs to be hidden in it, but not every school district will put it up there. If you want to know whether or not a particular school district has had that done, let me know and I'll ask and see whether it's.
It would just be interesting to see if it's like statewide declining enrollments or it's just.
Part of the report, it is a chart of the declining enrollments throughout New England.
Oh.
And so there's a little box in there that the Vermont, like all the other New England states, has declining enrollment, but we're actually we are declining less rapidly than the other New England states are declining, which it's still going down, but it's not going down as quickly as the other New England states are going down. I don't remember off the top of my head what the number was, but you can see compared to the other states.
Questions for Lauren? We have the principal's report. We received Chester's and Green Mountains in our packet, and then CTES was in the email today. Questions? Do you guys have anything that you wanted to add or new additions?
We do. I just love the more time I spend, the more time I love it. And that's a very true statement. It's phenomenal. I see get excited every day about the future of students. One example was the biophysics. You know, I didn't have a lot of experience of that. I know Lexi touched on it earlier, but to be part of a watching group and look at this multi-year group of students from from seniors to, seventh graders going, yeah, I know what we're doing. And the seniors had it all planned out, they knew what they were doing. And it'd be fun to watch the process grow because talk to Mr. Garland afterwards, it's like, yeah, they come in young, and then it's great to see them after a certain amount of years, they're leading. So I'm really excited to see where this goes and the competitiveness of kids, which we know exists. Winter Carnival is another thing. I'm meeting with student government tomorrow to kind of finalize. We looked at doing Thursday afternoon and Friday morning because the last day before vacation is an in-service day. So we talked to the kids about the full day. Even the kids agreed that a full day might be too long, to get everything done. So having the 2 half days, it keeps it fresh and spring musical is well underway, and again, I'm still waiting for Mr. Brady to give me my cameo role. He hasn't told me yet, but even if it's backstage. And the Ski Tuesday is another great program that kids really take advantage. In my report, I put 70 students. It's actually 96. So, and both our numbers a little bit disappointed with attendance, 91% for semester 1. That's still pretty good nationwide and statewide from the early results that I've spoken to a few people. And 61.1% involvement in co-curricular is good, and there's still more to go. So, and please, if there are any questions, not just tonight, but when we send the reports out, if you have any questions, I'm happy. My OCD keeps me on my email every day, so if you have any questions, I'm happy to either answer them there or find the answer for you. So.
I just had a question about the reoccurring donation from the local musician.
Yes.
How are you guys planning on utilizing that, or has it been earmarked for anything yet?
Again, it was started with a phone call from Zachariah Blackburn. Sounded very passionate about our school, our kids, and our program. And he said, I wanted to give $1,000 and we'll give it every year. And I was like, oh, that's very nice of you, yes. I talked to Mr. Brady. Of course, that's awesome. Called them back when I said I'd call them back. Again, paying attention to detail, I think was a good thing to follow back on it. And he just wants us to grow. Part of the conversation was as well, if there's ever any, I know I don't know if it's directly contracted to Ellis, but I know we get a lot of our instruments from Ellis, but he also offered, if we have any need for any cost price materials that Mr. Brady might need or instruments, we've got to let him know and he helps out. And I really don't think he was touting for business. It was more really genuine. I wanted to help us. So that he's going to pop in the next week or two. I said he'd bring the check in and have a chat. I'd like him to do some to Alex and around the school. See him. I don't know the gentleman, but he sounds very pleasant. So yeah, he wants to give us every year.
Giving it to Chester as well.
That's what I was gonna ask,
Yep,
because that's where the music starts, isn't it?
He did, yeah, I connected with him as well, and he's planning on giving the same donation to Chester. And he's very passionate about global music,
Yes.
world music. And so we talked about how to spend money. Should we do a residency? It wasn't quite enough to do that, but we do have all these African drums that need heads, and he said he could help with that, and the donation would go much further because he could do it at cost. And so he's paired up with my music teacher as well. So he seems like a really great member of our community.
That's great for longevity.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions?
Is there budget for the music department? I mean, it sounds like you're raising money and you're getting private donations. Is there a problem?
No, we didn't solicit this. This is someone who just reached out.
I know that they've been selling shirts to try to buy instruments or something.
Mr. Brady, yeah, he's doing a fundraiser. I can't I'll find out for you, but I didn't exactly inquire exactly what he was raising it for, but all programs will always need money and use money. It's, as well as not just raising money, but the momentum of it. Like everything else like we do with our clothes.
I'd understand something about the instruments.
But I'll.
The instruments aren't falling apart.
Just
curious.
Anyone else? Then we have curriculum reports and presentations. Curriculum link is there. Read it.
Commissioner on the screen. You, thank you.
So this month, we are going to follow the same process as we have the past few months, which we talk about in math and literacy, what our students are learning, how our students are doing, and what we are doing throughout TRSU to continue to improve teaching and learning. I'll focus on literacy first. So this is a snapshot from our P6 guiding principles that we really are focused on providing students in K6 with the skills and knowledge they need, efficient speakers, listeners, readers, writers, and critical thinkers. So with the adoption of EL module component, it's all integrated in to provide opportunities for students to grow in all of those areas. And so I was going to just showcase some of the work of one module in grade 4 on poetry, poets, and writers. That's focused on some guiding questions and big ideas around these 4 topics. The 4 tasks, 4 T's, topic, task, targets, and text. So it's a central complex text that students are accessing to unpack the skills and knowledge to perform on some unique assessments and a performance task. So in module 1, in unit 1, they're reading and analyzing poetry. So the bolded language there is the instructional focus that the teachers are providing learning opportunities for the students to do just that. So you can see there, they're reading and analyzing the very text, closely reading, preparing poetry, preparing for and practicing text-based discussions in around evidence of text around the main idea around Jack's feelings towards poetry and the text level of thought. They're also reading poetry from different poets, and so those 3 are some snapshots of the poets that they're kind of analyzing to look at characteristics of poetry. The second unit is really writing to inform. So they're kind of taking the knowledge that they've acquired and now thinking about how to apply that around writing focus. So they're taking notes to answer questions, reading biographies about famous poets, analyzing model essays, and writing and editing their work. This is a snapshot of a teacher in a classroom where she's using one of our high leverage instructional practices to engage students in discourse through questioning and using their co-constructing an anchor chart that the students can utilize to access those learning targets that are articulated there. The last unit is really using those, again, spiraling those all that knowledge that they've acquired, the skills they've acquired, to write poems and present. And so they're thinking about that speaking and listening component. This is a snapshot of an anchoring chart that a teacher utilized to help students practice their effective presentation. So in math, your math brains on, we're going to do a problem. In 2019, Iowa state sales tax on clothing was 6%. A shirt cost $15 before state sales tax was added. What was the cost of the shirt after state sales tax was added? So this is a PSAT question from 11th grade. Those are the multiple choice questions. Answers.
1590.
What else?
B.
Nice job. So really in this problem, it's really focusing on proportional reasoning. So beginning in grade 4, Common Core state standards and math students, the change problems, which set the foundation of proportional thinking. And then inspiraling into grade 6, really laying the foundation, building on that knowledge in grade 4. In grade 6, students focus on understanding ratios and unit rates and applying these concepts of problems involving unit pricing, constant rate of speed, and measure conversions in percent. In grade 7, again, remembering this is an 11th grade problem, they're really laying the foundation in these grade levels for these progressions, this sort of extended to proportional relationships and solve step proportional problems, percent problems, and scale. So how are our students doing? In our last presentation, Julie actually articulated a little bit deeper around satellite data, map data, and street data. So just thinking about this slide, like our satellite data includes district and building level achievement scores. Map data is looking closely at learning trends, and our street data is really our qualitative and experiential asset-based data. So student work. So we're going to just look at a few of those through literacy and math lens. So in literacy, this is the fall 2023 DUA Map Growth Reading benchmark results from our K6 system. Overall is currently performing the 64th median achievement percentile across all buildings and grades. I'd just like to share that and celebrate this, that last fall we were in the 58th, so we've grown in that area, which is good. It's still a far cry from our 80th percentile, which we would like. Also on this slide, you can see that the average, the 2 target areas of growth, to able to continue to focus on understanding the skills and knowledge occurring in grades 1 and 5. As you can see, there's some projected growth there, and then leveraging those strengths to see why there's this decline in 6th grade. And again, this is all K6 schools in TRSU. This is some street level data. So again, taking that poetry unit, and there's a student essay here. If you click on the link, it's as Adrian said, it's linked in your agenda. You can read the essay that one student wrote related to Unit 2. And then Unit 3, there's some student work around the poems that they've written. And lastly, there are 2 videos that the technology I know is not going to work, but you can watch them for a student's performance task where they did a poetry slam in one school where they shared their learning. They shared their poem and then what influenced them to write the poem and how it related to the figurative language and what motivated to write the poem around that celebration of learning. So parents came and they were focused on those pieces to kind of celebrate their learning for that time. And math, how are students doing? So this is the satellite data again. So grade 5 shows an increase in achievement level according to math fall 2023 versus fall 2022. Grade 6 showed a decrease in achievement levels similar to reading. And according to the DUA Map Growth benchmark results, our K6 system overall is currently performing in the 60th median achievement percentile across all buildings and grades. And by grade level, the graph to the right shows that students in grades 2 to 5 improved achievement levels. And comparing fall 2022 to fall 2023 results, while achievement levels have declined over the same period of time for other grade levels. The bottom piece is the fall 2023 PSAT, which is 24% of 11th graders met or exceeded benchmark math scores in fall 2000. And this next piece is actually how our 11th graders performed on that same question that you were asked to answer at the beginning of the presentation. And so 63% of our 11th graders correctly answered the Iowa clothing tax problem. So the explanation is example strategies students who use for both correct and destructive selected response options, giving guidance on errors, misconceptions, conceptual understanding to be addressed. What are we doing to improve? A team of TRSU educators, classroom teachers, and principals, a team attended the Yale National Conference. There are some snapshots of their reflections of that time, continuing to use backward planning, and listening to other teachers nationally, how they've integrated and interpreted the curriculum. As well as just connecting with other educators and students themselves that ran the conference as examples of what we could be here in two groups. Another component that both Julie and I have been doing is visiting data teams in our P6 buildings pretty frequently. This month I'm running this protocol where we're unpacking assessment, modeling, backwards planning. To plan for instruction for all learners and accessing an assessment. In math, we have a spring book read coming up where we're focusing on this book, 5 practices for orchestrating productive math discussions. And then lastly, in that book read, they'll be really focusing on these two areas in our high leverage instructional practices, checking for understanding and deepening student discourse.
Just go back to the previous slide. Could you talk a little bit more about the student discourse?
Yeah, so this is a practice, we have 8 of them. The one deepening student discourse is really a measure of best, well, you can read it there. So perhaps the best measure of effective classroom in the quality of student conversation. So when students are deepening their conversations with each other, they can recognize their ideas and opinions and are able to take the opinions of others seriously. So it's really kind of spiraling to help us work on creating in students those dispositions, essentially skill dispositions that we want to see with their life work.
And can I add that the book read that we're gonna do, the 5 practices involve using the students' work in the classroom. The teacher very deliberately selects and sequences certain pieces of work and then facilitates a discussion amongst the students. The first piece is accessible to all. The next piece is moving people in the direction where you want them to go. Typically, the last piece is, at the target level for the learning target that you're working on. The idea being, I could stand up there and teach it, but it's better if the students talk about it. So.
And just to add on to that piece too, our high leverage instructional practices are really the 8 together. If you see the 8 together, it's the highly skilled instructor. So deepening student discourse along with checking for understanding really enhances student experience and empowers students to own their learning. So you focus on those areas as an instructor, it helps in empowering students to own their learning.
Thank you. Have any questions? So many agendas, our chair, facility director.
Well, I'm happy to say that for the second meeting in a row, all 3 of your schools are in pretty good shape. We were expected to have a new fire marshal, assistant fire marshal is supposed to do annual inspections, which here at Green Mountain, since I've been here, only been here once, and that's when we had Chester Andover. So we've never had an inspection here, but it came down with COVID after he did one school. That was Chester Andover. And just a couple of things that one of them is going to cost a little bit of money, but nothing that's going to impact our budgets drastically. So it's always a sigh of relief when you get a clean bill of health from the fire marshal, but reschedule for Cavendish and for here, so we'll see how things go. Update on PCB testing. They'll start another round of quarterly testing next month here. Met with the DEC. As Lauren touched on, we can get very confused very easily because the DEC is flat out telling me there's $13 million for remediation, but you talk to another department in the state and they will tell you there is no money. So nobody's really sure how much funding there is. I'm convinced of that. before any remediation is done, we'll be having some very long conversations with influential people to make sure it's in writing that somebody's paying for it, not us.
And Todd, if I could interrupt for just a second, we talk about doing remediation. In a lot of the, part of the confusion we get into is they're very precise with their language. And remediation is when we put the carbon filters in. Eventually, we have to do correction. And when they talk about that they will pay for our correction, that is in fact what everybody is clear that they will pay for everything that we do that ultimately corrects the plan. While at the same time saying there's no money to do that, but that they will pay for it. But that we've been encouraged to make sure that everybody understands the difference between remediation, which is the ongoing process, and the corrective action plan. We don't have a corrective action.
They're
We have
working on that
remediation.
as we speak. Our environmentalist is working. So that's where we're at with that. Update from FEMA, Cheryl and I are gonna meet with our liaison from FEMA next week and see where we're moving with the White House and getting some kind of funding back from the flood. That is still in process. If we think that dealing with the state is confusing and difficult, jump in and deal with feds. Times it by 10 as far as I'm concerned. Cavendish is running pretty smoothly with the new facility supervisor. Do have a couple of hiccups there, all in the kitchen. The dishwasher completely gave out last month, and Andy's ordered a new one. And our company that have been doing inspections on our fire suppression systems gave Andy a quote on some code violations of the fire suppression system at Cavendish Elementary, and it was a lot more money than anybody wanted to spend. So we're going to look to get a different inspection, a different estimate on what it's going to cost to bring that up to standards. That's about it.
Questions? On the agenda is the final financial update.
We've got a lot folder for you this time. We have the December financial in there. Everything looks good. I think we're at about a 43%, which we're halfway through the year, so that's a good target. The one thing that was not budgeted was some evaluations that had to be done on some non-special ed students. Generally, that doesn't happen, but we are. So there's been very few. I usually do that over and under report, but there hasn't been a lot to add this year, which is actually very good. Also in the folder is the quarterly report of what we have in our capital reserve, transportation reserve, our student activities and scholarship accounts. So that report's in there, as well as the audit. So for the audit, last year we had a finding about procurement, which is a federal paperwork that we have to do to say that they are not disbarred or letter from the federal government that they can work for the federal government, as well as fill out another form that is a micro purchase, which goes up to $40,000. You know, or if we have to go out to bid, which I found out they're actually trying to change that. The federal going to change that. So that was a finding last year. We corrected. That's not on our report. They had they have different names for these things. I can't remember what this one's called, but with our contract with EI for Chester Andover, they didn't have the correct language in there for Davis-Bacon, which is a fair wage act. And there's a whole bunch of rules that we have to follow and to check timesheets, and we had a whole process that we had to go through. If we had corrected it, it wouldn't have changed anything. It's a material finding, so it has no negative impact on us, but it's a finding nonetheless. TRSU had a bigger finding. Is a deficiency, I think is what they called it. All these federal grants that we get in, that we pass back out to the school, we get sub-grant back out to the schools. And this is for 6 years. I've been with the district for 20 years. And this year, they decided I wasn't doing it. I mean, So, I've done it, we've corrected it, everybody signed off on it, the principals have to sign it, Lauren has to sign it, I have to sign it, and it just says, this is the money we got, this is the money we gave to Green Mountain, this is the money we gave to blah, 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 Holly. All the money's there, just didn't have that. So it'll be there going forward. Some of the minor things that were in the audit that we need to address, that'll be in the management letter that you can read, has to do with issuing contracts, and purchase orders and deposits. The deposits, I don't know. Losing battle chase, it has to do with student activities. When they do a fundraiser, day one, go out, you get a check, but they hold it till the end of the fundraiser and then pass it out to us, and now it's been past the 10 days that the auditor wants us. So that was one thing. The thing with the contracts is they feel we should issue contract for everybody, but there's things that when teachers are going to do a professional development for 2 days, we don't issue them a contract generally. We pay them after the professional development. So what we're going to do is write procedures to say that we'll write contracts for anybody that has a position, that's a full position, you know, pick the criteria to do that, and then we'll have some situations where we wouldn't necessarily issue a contract. Purchase orders, they feel we should do a purchase order for everything. That's what our policy says. But for me, a purchase order is to order something, not for a service, not for a contracted service, not for the electric bill. So it's a matter of us writing a procedure of, we will do purchase orders for anything we have to purchase. The services will. So, but the good news is all the money's there. So we'll take care of those things on our end. Any questions about the audit or the financials?
I have a question about the policy. Is there a way to rewrite the policy so we don't need to jump through hoops? Is it a policy that needs to be written at it without having it in front of me? Is it?
I think it's one that we have to review right now. It's on my desk to look at.
Okay.
I think we word it so that that it will refer back to the so in the next month.
So it should be on our agenda for the next policy.
Be the one after that.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
ESSER grants, the information on those grants is in the TRSU folder. If you go on to the TRSU website, go into financials, the ESSER 1 and 2, where we spent the money on that grant. The other thing that I'm working on is the state just provided us with the allowable tuition for FY22 and FY23. I think there's not for Green Mountain, there's not a significant amount. I think the net amount is $85 for FY22, but for FY23, it's about $90,000. So we charged $60,000 and it led to 18 something. And it's a plus or minus 3%, but not to exceed 10%. So it's a calculation that we have to do. So I will. Video reports.
Yeah. So we had a presentation from advanced manufacturing and engineering instructor is Christopher Gray. Unfortunately, I had to attend a funeral in New Jersey that day, so I did not get to the meeting, so I didn't have information. But I do have all of the information that we discussed. So we're still projecting an $83,500 surplus. The National School Choice Week, or during National School Choice Week, January 22nd to 26th, BTVLC is the recipient of funding to have an event activity with their students. The overall proposed budget for FY25 is down 1.9% from last year. The announced tuition is $20,247 for full-time student equipment. And
TRSU board, right now the TRSU is, pretty entrenched in the superintendent search. We have, two candidates, that will be announced, at a special meeting on the 24th. And I believe we are setting a public forum for the 31st of January. The beginning of the meeting was primarily, we were discussing goal setting and then, evaluating the superintendent evaluation. So we're kind of redlining some of that document, trying to make it a little bit more streamlined and relevant. And the TRSU approved a budget of $11,064,185 for the TRSU. That's pretty much it. The rest of it was super report, facility report, curriculum reports.
Specific information, they're trying to set up a meeting, I remember they. See,
It's not a restructuring committee meeting since the last GM meeting. Finance.
Our finance committee meeting on Tuesday. There wasn't a lot of new information, but having the discussion again, I thought was extremely helpful in terms of starting to understand it a little bit better and better. And so the takeaways that I had from that was, again, that this is really a one-year opportunity that we have to increase the budget without proportional increases in the education part of our tax rate. That we know our taxes are going up a lot, but that really isn't under the control of local or anything that we're voting on directly. And I guess the newest piece for me was this understanding that capital improvement is a really good place to be putting the kind of additional money that we might be increasing in the budget this year, as opposed to other places, because it's one of the only places where it can roll over. And that gives us a lot more flexibility next year if capital improvements are taken care of, that we have been able to budget for other things that we've actually been able to plan and think ahead rather than doing it last minute. So in the end, we recommended the proposed budget of $17,444,030, which does include the $478,000 towards capital reserve.
On the agenda is public comments. I don't see anyone online with a hand up.
my name is Randy Miles from Chester. I want to talk to this board tonight about basically the budget we have and actually moving forward and looking forward into the future. We all want the same goals. We want the best education we can for all our kids. But we can't ignore what the budget is doing, where it's gone in the last 4 years, and where it's probably going to go in the next 4 years. And if we don't start looking at some of the hard choices now, it's going to be too late in the next 4 or 5 years. The budget will be out of control and the taxpayers will just be splashing things that we really don't want to cut. So I'm asking this board to look at this as a proactive thing and start discussions on anything and everything we can look at and make sense to reduce. A couple of topics I'd like to say is, one, we're looking at buying another small van or bus. Is there any way we can get rid of one of the bigger buses to offset that cost so it really doesn't come into play for us? There's a lot of things like that that can happen. We have a lot of students with IEPs. Do they all need that? Has that been looked at? Is the IEP one level or is it a mixture of levels? We need to start looking at all these things to bring the cost down and get the money going to where it really needs to go to our students. That's really why I'm here, is hopefully spark an interest and start talking about these hard conversations. They don't have to be, war. It just needs to be discussed and what makes sense financially and for our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
On the agenda of new business, we have approval of the fiscal year 25 budget and signing warrants.
So as you just heard from Finance Committee, which is, of course, all of you, they're putting forward whether or not you're going to approve the proposed budget of $17,440,030. We have the warning that we can read once you decided if you are going to, if you are going to approve that. If there are other questions or things we want to discuss, Jeremy and I are glad to answer them, but we did most of our talking about it the day before yesterday. So if there are more things, we don't have a presentation for you. Just went through.
Discussion or questions? Take a motion to approve. Katie's moving to approve the fiscal year budget, of
$17,440,030.
Lois seconded it. There's no other discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The warnings,
Don't we usually approve the budget and then the warning? You just did, I missed it. You were asking me a question. I missed it.
You gave her the number.
do you want to read it?
Absolutely. You were-
No, so do you want to read it? Is this the most-
That was for the budget, that is another one.
I usually do the second.
Yeah,
Finish.
all right. Legal voters of Green Mountain Unified School District consisting of the towns of Andover, Baltimore, Cavendish, and Chester are hereby warned to meet the respective polling places on Tuesday, March 5th, 2024, for the purposes of voting by Australian ballot. Business to be transacted includes the following. Article 1. Shall the voters of Green Mountain Unified School District approve the school board of directors, approve the school board of directors to expend $17,440,030, which is the amount the school board of directors has determined to be necessary for ensuring, this is wording is a question. Is determined to necessary for ensuing fiscal year. It is estimated that the proposed budget, if approved, will result in education spending of $13,079.03 per long-term weighted equalized pupil. Is that correct?
Well, it's long-term weighted membership, which
Okay.
is long-term weighted, what we used to call it last week.
Because that can be problematic. It's changed.
This ran through a series of attorneys about whether this is appropriate, and we could put it forwards as long-term weighted membership. And I'm glad we could do that, but I don't think at this point, most people yet understand what membership and what. That this is, and I know that people don't understand what equalized pupil means, but the words equalized pupil have appeared on the ballot forever.
No, that's fine. I just didn't know if there was any legality of.
The lawyers say this is
Okay.
good.
Okay. Great. So I'll send this around signatures. Oh, I'm sorry.
We need a motion to
Motion
approve.
to approve the warning. as read.
I move to approve the warning. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. It's approved. Now it's approved.
Josh, you can stop by the office and sign these tomorrow or whenever.
Will do. Thank you.
So he doesn't have to sign the warning.
You want me to read it?
Yes,
We can- All right, so we also have to warn the annual school district meeting. The warning for the annual school district meeting, Green Mountain Union High School, Thursday, February 29th, 2024 at 6 p.m. The legal voters of Green Mountain Unified School District, consisting of the towns of Andover, Baltimore, Cavendish, and Chester, are hereby warned to meet to transact at that time business not involving voting by Australian ballot or voting required by law to be by ballot. The business to be transacted at this meeting includes the following. Article 1, to elect a moderator for a one-year term beginning July 1st, 2024. Article 2, to elect a clerk for a one-year term beginning July 1st, 2024. Article 3, to elect a treasurer for a one-year term beginning July 1st, 2024. Article 4, shall the voters of the Green Mountain Unified School District approve setting its annual honorarium for each of its school directors at $1,200, $1,200. Article 5, shall the voters of the Green Mountain Unified School District approve setting its annual honorarium for the treasurer at $750. Article 6, shall the voters of the Green Mountain Unified School District approve setting the annual honorarium for its school district clerk at $125. Article 7, shall the voters of the Green Mountain Unified School District authorize its board of directors to borrow money pending receipt of payments from member towns as provided in Title 16, Chapter 11, Section 711, by issuance of notes of money orders payable not later than 1 year from date for the purpose of paying its expenses. Article 8, to hear and act on the reports of the Green Mountain Unified School District Board of Directors for the school year ending June 30th, 2023. Article 9, to transact any other business deemed proper when met, not involving the expenditure of school district funds or any other business acted upon in the preceding articles. Article 10, to establish a new date for the annual meeting, approved at the duly warned meeting on January 18th, 2024.
Motion to accept the warning.
To accept it.
Lois, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I see the other one, please, before you read something, just right here too. So close. I just read weird.
It does. Lawyers, you know.
It's always good to put lawyer language in front of non-lawyer people.
I thought you were giving me the one I just gave you. That's okay.
All right. I will wait to move on. That's better. Very walk over.
I changed my mind.
No, that was a long thing.
Yes, next item of business is to discuss a new hire. 3-4 LTS at CTES.
Yes, so we are delighted to be putting in front of you. Everybody should have received Ashley's materials. She's been, hopefully, once you approve her, you would hire her as a long-term sub for the remainder of this year to replace the position vacated when Robin Lee no longer retired. And while we are discussing whether or not to continue with an additional position, it may or may not be in that grade. Anytime we're hiring somebody mid-year, we hire them on a one-year contract. She's being hired to fill this position through June 30th. And this, of course, will be welcome to apply for the ongoing position as well. She's a new graduate. I interviewed her. Dale will talk about her a little bit more here in a minute. I spoke to her as well. She is a bright, shining penny, and she is incredibly enthusiastic. And I don't think her recommendations came through in what you received, but I wanted to share in the recommendations just a couple of things so that you get a flavor for it. One of the people who was a professor for her doing her degree actually started her pursuit of an education degree with a huge passion and has never stopped. She has a powerful desire to make an impact on the learning of her students, especially those less fortunate. She has an incredible ability to reach out to students and keep them engaged. She often combines her passion and her creativity to provide the most effective instruction. As a longtime principal and superintendent, one of my simplest evaluations of a teacher would be if parents wanted that individual to be the teacher for their child. I would want Ashley Arvidsson teaching my children or grandchildren. And the other two references are full of similarly quoted things. Dale spoke directly with some of them, and I will let you talk about why she is your choice.
Just like Superintendent Truman said, all the references were very positive. One of the references was a pastor in the community, and she spoke about her character and her hard work and her dedication to whatever she does. Anything she puts her mind to, she kind of does it extremely well. She really spoke highly about her character. We had a panel. I left Maryland during the break, came up. So as soon as it came in my inbox, I was so excited to get the applicant. After I looked at the resume, I jumped in my car, took it back up to Vermont, and we interviewed her with the panel. And it was unanimous. All the panel members that were there. There were five folks that showed up at Cavendish and we interviewed, and they were all unanimous. And yes, we want to hire her. So it was really just a Merry Christmas miracle or a holiday miracle that it happened. I was excited. Everyone's excited. So and the kids are excited, and so far she comes to work every day smiling. And she's like Superintendent Freeman said, she's very enthusiastic and willing to learn. And she's working with Ellen Cameron, who's just a fantastic teacher. So she's got a wonderful mentor right there working with her. I know Jen Harper's also working with her as a mentor. So there's tons of support around her already. And she's smiling every day when she comes. So it's really good so far. So I highly recommend her.
And so you understand she's there already as a substitute. So as soon as we need two things to put her on a teacher contract. One is we need the board to approve her hire. The other is she graduated in December and she needs a teaching license.
Right.
And she has applied for the license. She does not yet have that in hand. As soon as that happens, and as soon as you approve her, then she shifts from being paid a daily rate as a substitute to being under the teacher.
Make a motion that we hire her.
Just have a question. The panel that sat, what did it consist of? Was it
There was a support staff member there. There was some instructional stuff. Paraprofessionals on the we have a human resources committee that the staff in the years. So every time we hire somebody, there's a group of people, teachers that sit. It's not just my decision. We also together. It's a team decision. 3 teachers there, support staff, paraprofessional, and I'm there.
Oh, so there was staff.
Yeah, it's a staff.
So make a motion regarding new hire.
I will make a motion.
A second. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. She's hired. What's her last name?
Arvidsson, Arvidsson.
So aside from that business, that's something you said you've already, I thought there was some discussion about not hired, like, reword that. Have you already decided that you're going to replace Robin's position?
We're
or
still
is-
talking.
Okay, I just, when you said that, I knew that she was.
And if we do, and we're looking at class sizes, and if we decide that we need to have someone, we've had discussions about it, and will likely not be in grade 3, 4, which will be smaller. We have a larger, because we've got 20 kindergartens, we're going to have a combined 1-2 that will have 27 students, and we may to split that. We're still having conversations. It's in the budget to allow us to do that. We may want to reconfigure some things.
Moving on, this item is world business. There are 5 policies for second reading, possible adoption. them ahead of time. Any discussion about any of them? Right, just gonna go down the line individually, but we can, you guys agree with this, one vote. So, C2, D10, D12, G12, G13. Should to approve all of them as.
I move to accept all the policies as written.
Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Are all adopted. Then old business, section B is a possible GMUSD retreat. We had discussed at our meeting that potentially putting this into well, after March, so not on the March meeting, but the following month, since potentially this board. Is there any discussion about that?
I think that makes a lot of sense.
So we will put that. All right,
Okay, so motion to find that premature general public knowledge of contracts discussion for principals of GMUSD would place the board at a significant disadvantage because the board was closing negotiation strategies if the contract terms were discussed in open session.
all in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Second.
Motion motion to enter executive session. Motion, it says motion under.
Yeah, motion to enter.
Motion to enter executive session to discuss the terms of contracts. GMUSD, principals currently under one contracts under provisions of Title I VSA 313, lowercase a1, uppercase a, inviting Mrs. Fairman to join us.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we're now entering into executive session. 1907.
Let me really, we do have a few people.
Good night. No, they are, they're just moving slowly.
I was pretty sure there was still a lot of people.
Amber was in there too. I think.
At 7:41, 1941. We're back out of executive session. Amber's joining,
So I, no, she's right there.
but she's walking back.
Oh,
in.
Russell.
No, she kindly decided to stay.
Well, I figured you had some action.
There's always a little.
I move that we extend the contracts for both principals who are currently under one-year contracts, with those details to be discussed in.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes.
I'm sorry, who's the second?
Motion passes to extend contracts. I'm sorry, extend the contracts for the 1 year. All right, next item on the agenda is future agenda items. Sorry.
No, I'm going to.
The only thing I have thus far is presentation of the NISDEC numbers. The next agenda.
And I think we should add, beginning of discussing the budget for next year with that to be continued every month.
So do you want to make a motion to add a
And
recurring agenda
a
item?
recurring agenda item to have budget discussions to be ongoing school year.
Yes. So a motion, so you can second it?
Sure, yeah.
And then, so we have a motion to add a reoccurring agenda item for budget discussion on a monthly basis. Second by Scott, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Is there any future agenda items?
I don't know if we should put it on the future agenda, but when I was here yesterday, I did notice that there was 14 windows open in this facility at a 13-degree day. I don't know what we have to do about that. We're just throwing heat at the window.
And
There's still an
Increasing-
AC unit
yes.
in the windows.
I know, and increasing, I mean, when people feel they can bear it, they're gonna open the windows to increase the air circulation in the room because of the ECEs. And in years when we didn't have the filters in place and this issue, we have had discussion about there's gotta be a better way to cool things down than to run heat into a room and open the window. Having said that, it is not something, not something I would be comfortable telling our staff under these conditions to.
I went to that, Julia, I didn't hear your question, Scott. What was it?
Just that there was 14 windows.
Yeah, 14 windows, I'm sure there was. And that, I got a good explanation for that. That's the failing heating system that we have. It's so hard to control the heat here that ask any faculty member here, you can be in a room for 3 hours and it can be 71. You go to lunch and come back and it's 90 in your classroom. Because of the pneumatic system, we can't control the air. It's so antiquated. And what happens? Julie was one of them. We try to tell very smart people, if you open the window, right? You open the window, that cold air goes right straight across it, hits the thermostat, opens that power cup, it makes it even hotter. So the more you open the window, the hotter it gets in the classroom. That's why you see windows open.
I get the window open, I see an AC unit still sitting.
Well, the AC units, those were there long before my time. I'm not a proponent of AC units. But I'm not in those classrooms, and the way those are set up, we don't have the capability of pulling those out, putting the window back in. Because those are built, somebody built those, and my husband came in and built those before my time, so we haven't added any more of those. I hear you.
I can speak to. Appreciate downstairs, or Jim being a lot.
So when we look at even fights of air problems lately, where you open up unit ventilators and you look out, you can see that much right straight outside with a direct vent. The windows and the air conditioners, windows are not quite as high a priority when you get 6 inches of absolute blistering cold air coming across your walls. Yeah, I get it. Not anymore. We're using less than what we did since we put the new roof on. Our fuel usage went down. I don't want to say a percentage, but it went down after we put the new roof on, we increased the insulation.
We look into possibly figuring out a way to fix
Okay.
without doing a whole heating system.
Well,
There's gotta be ways.
you just said that, like, when they open up the window, the cold air then triggers the
Yeah.
thermostat, which then has this kind of snowball effect, no pun intended. Is it they're trying to get air movement?
We're just trying to get it to cool down.
We do have some people who want to have, under these conditions, they want the window open. And so you've got two things, you've got people who just want it to be cool. You've got people who don't care how cold it is outside. There's a concern about the air quality there.
Is that allowing fresh air in, or is that sucking hot air out?
A little of both.
Okay.
I mean, not to tie everybody up, Scott, but right, I mean, the answer is yes. Yes, if we wanted to replace unit ventilators. If we replace unit ventilators, we would solve that inadequate heating, but you're still stuck with the same windows that you have that are original to the building. So then what do? You replace the windows, which is 25% less, it prevents all this to the bottom, right? So if you put double hung windows everywhere, so you get rid of those direct vents, use overhead heating with air handlers and heat recovery units on the roof, then you're looking at multi-million-dollar project. So there are ways to not spend that much money, but you're gonna spend more money in the long run before it's all said. Unfortunately.
Does make me a little concerned that we have staff that are maybe feeling unsafe here.
We can, you know, most people are pretty comfortable with it. And rather like all, you know, issues about through COVID, do we need to wear masks? Don't we need to wear masks? Most people here are not remotely concerned about it. One or two people who are concerned.
Was this, what, you know, we were doing, there's some comments about a lot of fluctuations
Oh, yeah.
affecting. So this becomes one more impediment.
It
Places a lot of
absolutely
benefits.
is. It is a thing that we need to fix. We need to fix it, not put it back.
There's no mandate for $570,000.
Yeah, not that I know of. I know the people who have looked at it and who have considered it. And some of that is about the window being in the integrated unit with that system. And to go through and spend money to fix one and not fix the other. Especially now that we are looking at the likelihood that corrective action is going to involve the windows and the heat.
I think we'll be talking about this a lot.
I was gonna say, I think we're kind of,
Way off
Yeah,
future
yeah,
agenda.
Environmental quality of the building is a big.
but we're talking about future agenda items. We
Well,
can add that
I
to
was
the,
asking if we
yeah,
should put it on now.
that's what I'm saying, we can add that as an agenda item, kind of a further discussion.
Let's do it.
So we will discuss. Todd, I think that that's probably something you should be prepared for then.
I'm already prepared.
Right.
Just give me something to do.
Casey's forward.
Any other future agenda items that people are wanting? Okay. Line item is public comment.
Brady Miles at Chester. I just want to touch base. You talked about it throughout the meeting, stuff with the PCBs and stuff like that. I read that article too, an article like that you all saw. And when I first saw that, I was actually shocked with the way they worded it, putting a pause on this. To me, this is basically a crisis. You have these institutions with all these members, teachers, students in these buildings. And then for the state to come across that way, this needs to be addressed. The box has been opened and we need to follow this through. So I'm glad people are staying on top. I'm glad that our schools are somewhat protected and in this program, I'm concerned about the state and the lack of money and how much money this is going to really escalate to. So I just wanted to talk about this and like say, I had really big concerns when I read that article. The amount of just keeping the air so with these carbon filters, those carbon filters are astronomical. They only last so long. So those are only abandoned. Those have got to get removed more sooner than later. And you've got to find a solution. I hope in the future we can get a new heating and windows and lights put in that will be beneficial to this school. But like I say, for that article, I was very alarmed with that. So it may come to all of us, the boards, the schools, and the communities putting pressure on the state to come up with more money. And I feel that's probably the way it's going to go more soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Has their hand up online. It's next meeting date, so it's a JMUSD regular meeting, 6 p.m. February 15th, here in the library and on Zoom. So is anything else? Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor? We are adjourned at